Society has made us feel like if we're alone, then there's something wrong with us. Like, there's a reason why people don't want to spend time with us, and being lonely is sad or wrong or makes you a loser, and this is not true. It's just the way that society is structured and has made you feel, because we're in an always on society. There are always things to watch, always things to do, always people to see, and it's made us constantly want that hit of dopamine and almost crave being with people and being distracted rather than being okay with being on our own. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why loneliness is actually good for you and why you should be lonely more. If you are feeling alone, then it's okay. We do go through alone times and it's only natural. It's going to pass. But also to make the most of it. Make the most of this alone time and understand that when you're alone, it's not a reflection of you. It's not a reflection of you being boring or you being any less valuable than anyone else. It's just the way that life is right now, and nothing is permanent. Everything always changes. First of all, being alone actually helps with productivity and creativity. When we are forced to be alone and we are forced to be bored, that is when we get more productive and we get more creative. Our mind finally gets time to quiet down and away from all of the noise from the outside world. And when this happens, incredible things come to life. It's when your mind can finally slow down and things can come up which you might have been suppressing. This can be feelings, this can be ideas, this can be creative projects you want to work on, or this can be relationships you want to fix. It's a really powerful tool to let your mind slow down and let your mind be alone so that some things that you might be suppressing can actually come up. And I know this might be a turn off for many of you, but another one of my points is the fact that we can't avoid loneliness. We can't avoid it. So if you practice loneliness now, then when the time comes when you are forced to be alone at the end of the week, at the end of a holiday, when you have to go home and you're on your own and you don't feel good and you feel lonely and you feel sad, if we start practicing loneliness now, if we start practicing feeling that feeling and learning how to deal with it, then when we are forced to be alone, we're going to be fine. We're not going to be sad. We're not going to feel like a loser, for example. So practicing loneliness is really, really important because we can't avoid loneliness. Especially in today's society, we think we can because we have phones all the time, but this isn't the same as human connection, as I'm sure you all know. Like, going on your phone, watching content, even calling your friend is not the same as being connected to someone. So we can't avoid loneliness. Getting comfortable being alone, getting comfortable with yourself is really important. And I know that there is a study which Jay Shetty mentions on his podcast where they interviewed like a bunch of people and asked them if they would rather spend 10 minutes alone or get electrocuted, like an electric shock. And it was around an insane amount, like maybe 80-90% of people would rather have the electric shock rather than sit alone for 10 minutes. And this is really scary because being alone is so liberating and it's so important to be comfortable with yourself, and when you don't allow yourself that space, you don't truly get to know yourself. And I honestly think that the way that society is structured now, with our phones and with the constant on the go, it means that we avoid being alone as much as we possibly can. Therefore, we never truly get to know ourselves. So getting to know yourself is another reason why being lonely is actually really good for you. And by getting to know yourself, I mean the fact that when you're alone, these thoughts and these uncomfortable thoughts and feelings will come up, and then you can actually sit with them and you can actually ask yourself, why am I feeling that way? What triggered that thought? What triggered that feeling? And get to know why those feelings come up even more. Because when we don't ask ourselves these questions, when we have this feeling of anger, of jealousy, of frustration, but then we just move on to the next task, we're never truly getting to the root cause of that feeling. We're never truly getting to what triggered that feeling, to why we had that feeling. And that gives us no power. That makes us it almost puts us in the backseat of our own heads, of our own minds, rather than driving the car. Wouldn't you rather drive the car? Wouldn't you rather drive your mind rather than sit in the backseat and let your mind control you? So being alone can help you be the driver, basically. And some things I personally do to try and get to know myself is definitely journaling and meditation. These are two daily non-negotiables. They don't have to take long at all, but it just allows me to tune into me, tune into my intuition, see what I'm feeling, see what negative or positive emotions are coming up, and ask myself why they're coming up, what triggered them, what can I do more of, what can I do less of. Just going to add in my favourite journal prompt is to ask myself, how am I feeling and why am I feeling this way? These two questions are so powerful and will allow you to figure out why you have certain feelings and what triggered them. Loneliness is good because you start to value your time more. Once you enjoy spending time with yourself and you enjoy spending time alone, it makes it so much easier for you to say no to things which don't serve you. Because when we're afraid to be alone, we're constantly trying to fill up our calendars, to fill up our time, to spend time with as many people as possible. And when we do that, we don't value our time. We're almost afraid to be by ourselves. But when you enjoy being by yourself, when you are content with that, then you're not driven to fill up every free moment you have in your calendar. You're not driven to try to make the most of every single event that pops up. You're kind of surrendering to things that come because you're okay if that plan gets cancelled. You're okay if you don't join a friend tonight for dinner, because being with yourself is actually productive and it's actually fun, it's actually enjoyable, and it's never time wasted. A quote I always remember is, spending time alone is never time wasted, because I used to think that when I was alone, I was wasting time. And now it's the exact opposite, because I'm so content with being alone. My alone time is extremely productive. I get to recharge, I get to get on with work, I get to find out more about myself, and I get to be creative. Another benefit to being lonely is the fact that your external validation and your external motivation disappears, because you start getting intrinsically motivated and you start intrinsically validating yourself. The worst thing is to look outside for validation and to look outside for motivation, because these things in the long run do not last. They're not sustainable. But when we are intrinsically motivated and when we are intrinsically validating ourselves, telling ourselves that we're on the right path, we're doing the right things, that is when the true productivity comes into play. And we can only achieve this by being alone with ourselves and internally motivating ourselves and validating ourselves and acknowledging ourselves and understanding that we're worthy. So it's a lot of self-worth which comes into loneliness as well, because when you value your alone time, you're valuing yourself. Feeling alone in the presence of someone else is far worse than feeling alone on your own. Have you ever had that feeling when you're with someone, you might be one-on-one with someone, or you might be in a group of people, but you feel so alone even though you're surrounded by people? That is, honestly, I felt this too, and I know that a lot of us have, but the more that you spend time by yourself, the less you are going to feel that way, because you don't truly feel alone because you know that you have yourself. Now, I'm not saying that if you practice these things, you are never going to feel lonely, because loneliness is natural. It's a feeling that comes up and it's fine. We just need to navigate it. But when loneliness does come up, we don't feel sad. We don't feel threatened. We don't feel scared. We just acknowledge it, sit with it. That's okay, and understand that it will pass. So valuing your alone time is going to help you to build better relationships and better friendships, because when you truly understand what it feels to be alone in the presence of others and in the presence of yourself, then when it comes to making new friends and when it comes to being in a relationship, you will know exactly what you don't want to feel, and it will be that feeling of pure loneliness. That was 7 reasons why you should be alone and you should value your alone time. Now, I moved away from my hometown almost 1 year ago and I am alone a lot of the time, and it's impacted me in the best possible way, which I would never imagine. I am now so much more secure in myself, so much happy with myself and happy with the direction that I'm going. So I hope that if you are feeling alone, it's okay. We do go through alone times and it's only natural, it's gonna pass, but also to make the most of it. Make the most of this alone time by getting to know yourself and being creative and valuing yourself. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I have lots more videos on making friends and being lonely, so I will link those below if you want to watch them. And thank you so much. I hope I see you in the next one. Have a beautiful day, week, month, life. Bye.